Okay, let's talk about the chairs. Yeah, the problem that, for example, if you done pretty well, you done your wireframe and you started also play with the control point, maybe expand a certain part and reduce certain dimensions and drag here and there. What you may end up, or maybe eventually you could also do a rebuild, like what I did is to select the wireframe and then of course go to the line and rebuild the little hammer over there. But the obvious problem is with this one is once you rebuild, it's no longer a mirror image. So what we can do is very simple. The one thing is I'm just going to draw a line and cut off. So one thing we're going to learn is to trim. Yeah, so I'm going to draw a line. You can draw the line anywhere. And what you can do is probably snap the line to somewhere sort of a middle point, or if there's any point that you can select. Otherwise, you could also ignore precisely the dimension for now and just sort of leave it somewhere in the middle, because we're going to mirror image, may probably have to modify the dimension anyway. So trim. First, just make sure nothing is selected. Sometimes any of the selection may confuse. So make sure nothing is selected and go to trim, which is under this min toolbar right here. Yeah. So above trim is join. Select trim and read the command line always. Select the cutting object. I will use this. And also, while you select your cutting object, there are two options. If you read, one is one says extend lines, and one says apparent intersections. Both should be selected as yes. Yeah, so I would like to see this to be part of your journal. So when you question what to be put in the journal are the things that you normally would just forget very easily. So why do we select this to as yes? Because if you don't select yes, those object has to intersect perfectly, or otherwise it would not trim. Yeah, so just make sure that those two are selected as yes. So I selected my cutting object and then press enter when done. So press enter, yeah, do not keep selecting. And select object to trim, which I probably just like to trim off the other part. So I finished the trimming and press enter when it's finished. Yes, I'm recording it. Yeah. Okay, so we done this and practice on trimming. So as you can see, I'm trimming at all this location, and this line is anywhere at the height. I can trim. Basically, I can trim. I can put the line anywhere. So that's one of the reasons that I have to make sure the to selection after you click on trim is selected as yes, because otherwise you can only trim something that's eventually really crossing three-dimensionally. So okay. So that's this. Let's do a mirror image then. I'm probably trimming off a little bit too much, but anyway, this is the concept. So where do we do a mirror image? This comes to a next topic is you go to move, and you understand that there's a lot of selections under move, and one of them is mirror image. They're very clear pretty much just by looking at them. For example, this one is twist, this one is bend. We are not there yet, but they're kind of visually very self-explanatory. So this is a mirror image, yeah? So select start, maybe do the same thing. Do not select anything. Just select the toolbar first and select object to mirror. Yeah, so that's mirror. I selected toolbar and asked me to select the object. So I select the object and press enter when done. And the start of mirror plane is here, and actually would be best to just snap to either end. So you're making sure your mirror image is, because your mirror image could go different directions and then they don't touch each other anymore. For example, I could mirror like this, yeah, but I'm not going to. I'm going to mirror using my middle point, and with this I can have two sides of the chair. If we look at our perspective view, I think it's probably this one. Anyway, this is what you can do. This is what, when you rebuild, when they're no longer overlapping, what you can do is you cut half of the off, and then you mirror image them, so it would be much better. And then when I'm done, I'm using a join, so this become one enclosed loop. And of course, one thing you could do is, turn on the control point. At this point, because I did the mirror image, so all of the points are in line with each other. So, and is their mirror image to each other. So, for example, if I select one of them, yeah, you can see these two are no longer, if that's the case, if accidentally this is what you did, you sort of move the control point, what you do is you do a set point, which I talked about already last time. So remember, this is very important because many times you will mess around, or the lines do not really join. So I could do a set point. I'm using this, I'm setting. If anyone can give me an answer, in this case, these 2 points are not in line, right? So when I use set point, it's under transform and is under set point. So I have this panel which has X and Y and Z. So in this case, which 2 directions that I should set? X and Z, correctly, yeah. So that's basically it, yeah? So set the X and the Z, yeah? Not the Y, yeah? So that's this one. And another thing that I see quite common is, this is what you do. You're using your orbit probably and rotate sometimes just slightly on your other views, which is supposed to be elevation view, but they all became perspective in this case. So what do is you go to the tag, front, right click on the tag. This is something you may not right away remember, but you should record it. Okay, right click on it and select set view and select whatever that you want, and to bring back perfectly the view if you messed around with the view. So I set the view and I set this one as right, yeah? Oh, by the way, see, this one isn't totally, because I think you also disturbed the mirror image. So I probably don't need to do this. Okay. So the next thing is we're going to build a seat for the chair. So far it's only the wireframe. You cannot sit on the wireframe, right? So we're going to build a surface somewhere here for sitting and behind. So if your line is, for example, this case is straight, so the back is totally straight, so it's easier actually. You just need to build a flat surface. But in the case, let's use one of the more complicated one. Oh, I just removed my other funny stuff, so maybe I bring back the perfect one, which is this, yeah. So in case you have a chair like this, then if you try to build a supporting the back, you actually have a sort of a curvy surface, right? So how are we going to do the curvy surface? This is my trick. There might be a million different ways of doing it. I'm drawing 2 lines, just simply 2 lines. Yeah. Actually, before you do, you probably want to make a copy. Everybody know where the copy button is, so that in case you mess around with something, you still have a copy of it. So, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably cut off all the rest and leave only the middle part. So I'm selecting my cutting edge, and I selected my object to trim. Yeah. So I have sort of 2 of the line looking like this. Yeah, this I should be able to very easily. Maybe before I do that, maybe what I do is I should probably make a copy. I have a perfect line which I'm going to use to build the back of the chair. But now it's difficult to bring the line perfectly in line with this wireframe because they're separated. So it's not easy to snap to it. So maybe what I do is I make a copy. Right over it. So it's looking like 1, but it's actually 2. So I would hide one of them, yeah? Or you could lock one of them. So I would do the same, select a cutting object and trim off the other 2 parts. So I end up with something like this, yeah? And I'm going to join the 2 ends. Okay, So this is basically another wireframe, which I'm going to use this to build the back, which I'm going to use a very simple tool I haven't introduced, is surface from 2, 3, 4 edge curves. Yeah, it's under the surface tool. You expand it a little bit and you use the second one right here. So surface tool, yeah. So I'm going to select my curve, 1, 2, yeah. So then you will come up with a surface. It's pretty simple and straightforward. And then I'm going to unhide because I hide my wireframe. So now I'm bringing back my wireframe so that they're perfectly inlined. Yeah. So that's one of the reasons I made a duplicate at the same location so that they're perfectly in line, because if I try to inline this one with my other wireframe, it's not easy. Where are they, you know? So in this case, I have this surface, but remember, surface is just a piece of paper. It has no thickness, so you cannot use a surface to support your back. So you need a little bit thickness. So do you all know? We already learned that. Do you all know which one is it? Extrusion, correct? Yeah. You certainly want to extrude the surface, right? Yeah, extrude the surface and give it thickness. And that is a little bit tricky. So there's something to be confused is this extrusion right here. If you just click on it, it normally means to extrude the curves. Yeah, so all of these things it will not tell you. If you use, remember this one you did extrusion, but this only apply to curves. It doesn't apply to surface. So if we want to extrude the surface, we need to do a different thing. I normally go to solid and extrude the surface and extrude, I would just extrude straight. So solid, extrude the surface, extrude straight, yeah? So, and then in this case, I can extrude my surface. I will select my surface, press enter, but as you can see, I'm probably extruding to the wrong direction, because it's extruding up and down, but I want to extrude horizontally, yeah? What do I do at this point if the direction is wrong? Does any of you still remember? Correct, yeah, that's right. The command line and go to the direction. So I click on the direction, right? And then I'm going to set another direction, which I could come to my front view and snap to one point and another point, which really brings this one to this direction, yeah? So, and then once I'm done, I'm correct with my direction, I'm going to type in a thickness of it. 20 would be plenty. So I'll use 20, depends on the type of material. So I have, you know, sort of a thickness right here. And what you can do is you can do the same thing for the seating area, which you might, for example, you might use this part, that's the wrong direction, draw a line, sort of, and draw another line, maybe, let's say here, yeah? It doesn't matter. I'm using whatever between these two lines as an area where I would apply the same technique and then become a seating for the chair, yeah. So how you create the seating for the chair is basically the same how you create the top of the chair.